Welcome to the Acupuncture Outsider podcast. My name is Richard Hazel, and in the time it takes for you to commute to or from work, I hope to have shared something of interest about orthopedic acupuncture using motor points, trigger points, myofascial slings, neurofunctional acupuncture, segmental treatments, anything that crosses my mind that seems to be of interest. I hope you'll enjoy it. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Acupuncture Outsider. This is Richard Hazel, and I don't script anything that I'm going to say on a show. I basically just decide what I want to talk about, and then I just start talking. And today I'm a little nervous because I want to talk about fascia, and I'm so worried that I'm going to just keep talking, and it's going to be a super long episode. I really hope I can keep this brief, and maybe what I should just decide right now is that I'll cover it again at another time to get more in depth. But the first thing that I was thinking about talking about today was some things that I've seen recently with patients with their fascia lata being super tight. You've heard of the TFL, the tensor fasciae latae, but we don't often talk about the whole fascia lata. So I just wanted to explain that our leg has fascia that sheaths all the muscles and nerves and everything at a deep level, and it's like a sausage casing around the whole thigh. The IT band is a thick part of the whole fascia lata. So the fascia lata is like this stocking around your thigh. It has connections at the sacrum and the sacrotuberous ligament. It goes all the way down into the ischial tuberosity area. In the front, there's connections to the inguinal ligament and the abdominals, the pubis. So it's the thinnest on the inner part around the adductors, thickest on the outer part. And there are different kinds of fascia. There's like a superficial fascia right below the skin, but the deep fascia is stronger and more fibrous, and that's the ones that's the fascia that envelops different muscles and the vessels and the nerves, and that fascia lata is the deep fascia it's super strong. One of its functions is to be compressive for when you're using your legs, so that your body will push lymph and blood back up to the heart. It's the same thing with the low leg, the crural fascia of the low leg. One of the functions is circulatory, but fascia can get injured, and we know from research from Robert Schleip and the Steckos and Hélène Langevin, that fascia has smooth muscle cells like our vessels do, and that is under the control of the autonomic nervous system. So our body can protectively tighten fascia. If there's an injury, your body may tighten the fascia, and that means it's not under our conscious control. We can't just say relax and make the fascia relax. So you'll find people, especially after surgery, who have very tight fascia lata after like a knee or hip replacement. And, you're not going to find that from muscle testing. You have to ask questions. You have to palpate. And you'll find this a lot, actually. So, and there are different ways that I approach releasing a tight fascia lata. One of them, of course, is to treat it like an IT band issue, because I know that a lot of tension after a hip replacement or knee replacement is going to come from the quads and the TFL. So definitely going to treat TFL and glute min. I'm going to treat the quads, going to treat the hamstrings, but there's still going to be that tight fascia lata. So in that case, I want to use IASTM, which is Instrument Assisted Soft Tissue Manipulation. I'm going to put some links to Brookbush Institute IASTM techniques because I just think that Brent Brookbush explains things so well, and his methodology is the one that I use, which is much more gentle than you may have experienced from um, practitioners that you've gone to, where they're going really deep and they're causing a lot of petechiae, going really hard into the muscle and trigger points, etc. That's not a fascia treatment. That's more like a myofascial treatment. And there's nothing wrong with it, but it's not the method that works best for releasing a tight fascia lata, tight fascia. That methodology has to be very light. And there's a neuromuscular explanation for that. Our fascia is full of mechanoreceptors as part of our sensory nervous system that allows us to have proprioception for proper motor control. You know how Yonda called it the sensory motor system. So because it's sensory and motor working together for smooth motor control, our body has to sense where it is in place. It has to sense how much force is being transmitted in order to use the exact amount of deceleration or acceleration to do what we are trying to do. So the fascia is packed with proprioception, and that is going to be really important for motor control. So you're gonna do some really light, gentle IASTM. I personally would do it in the hip flexors right below the ASIS. All those tendons are full of proprioceptors, and then gentle IASTM technique is going to help tell the fascia to relax. I would go down through the quads, through the IT band, maybe the adductors as well. With the guy that I'm thinking of that I treated recently after he had a knee surgery, I actually asked him if his leg felt like it was squeezed in like a sausage casing, and he said that's exactly what it feels like. So after working on muscles, then I did some ISTM. I didn't need to see him after that. He was much better. And I would definitely get into those hip flexors and adductors, the IT band area, down by the knee. And I want to, let me make sure I said everything I want to say about that. I'll put some good links for like TFL and other ISTM areas that are very helpful. That, the lumbodorsal fascia is prone to getting tight. It's that connector between the lats and the glutes, and on a lot of people, it can get very tight. So people could feel a lot of tension in their low back that isn't from the spinal erectors and QL or from the glutes. It could just be a fascia that's super tight. You could always consider that both are tight. And if you're working with somebody on mobility and you've kind of hit a wall, maybe consider working on the fascia and see if that was what was stuck. It's not uncommon that will happen. So the gentle technique is because the mechanoreceptors in fascia are for things like light touch, pressure, vibration. If you're going hard, like going after myofascial trigger points, things like that, know that that's what you're doing. That's fine. You're going to get in there, but you're going to cause a lot of redness and soreness. And that, in that case, that technique is fine for myofascial release. And I would personally, as an acupuncturist, I think we have good tools for that we don't need to use IASTM for that. We could do some dry needling. We could get in there with motor points with electric stimulation. So, but if let's say, you're out camping and all you have is your IASTM and you're trying to help somebody, then, know that if you're going deep like that, it's for the muscles and the myofascial trigger points that you're trying to get at. Because if you're inflicting some discomfort, there's a completely different response from the nervous system than if you're going really gently. Your autonomic nervous system will not respond well to a lot of aggressive digging in. That's going to cause some discomfort, which will not relax the fascia. When it's gentle, it's like you're telling the autonomic nervous system, this area is now healthy. And the reasons that the body tensed up to protect are no longer there. So you're kind of like re-educating the fascia that this area is now pain-free and the fascia can relax. And there's a lot of research on light touch, light pressure, vibration, and the body going into a more parasympathetic state. I don't want to go off on too much of a tangent, but there in osteopathy, there's a lot of sort of visceral manipulation, the deep abdominal areas under the ribs and things like that. But it's very likely that it's a stimulation of the abdominal fascia with pressure. And there's plenty of research showing that pressure on the abdominal fascia has an impact on the autonomic nervous system, putting the body more into a parasympathetic state. And then, if you look at Hélène Langevin, her research on acupuncture and fascia comes to the same conclusion. You're stimulating the fascia with needles, causing the body to go into a more parasympathetic state. And if you know anybody who is into more of a naturopathic or functional medicine approach, that stress, it makes everything worse. Whatever your health concerns are, stress will make it worse. And so really being able to put the body into a more parasympathetic state is going to be beneficial for almost any health concern, which is why I would argue that traditional acupuncture works so well for so many health concerns that are especially an internal medicine condition. Because if you can help put the body into a parasympathetic state, you're reducing the stress hormones like cortisol, you're allowing blood sugar levels to be better, you're reducing adrenaline, you're making somebody less fatigued, you're allowing the body to heal, you're creating all these good endorphins. There are all those good reasons to that traditional acupuncture can be really helpful, regardless of what your point selection is. If you are familiar with Miriam Lee, she pretty much had a formula that she was using over and over and over with great success. And it really, I mean, I know she made some adjustments here and there, but who's to say that she needed to? If you're using the good points that get some good stimulation in the fascia, that stimulates the sensory system, a little bit of vibration or pressure in the fascia, you are going to have a positive impact on the autonomic nervous system, which allows the body to repair itself. So really, the light touch for IASTM is really essential because it's going to have a beneficial effect on those smooth muscle cells in the fascia, causing them to relax. And by the way, your patient also then feels nice and relaxed at the end of the treatment. So it's a really nice thing to add at the end. They feel nice and relaxed. So that's what I wanted to say about treating the tight fascia lata. But just, and I probably have to do a second episode about this, but, also consider it for things like the plantar fascia, things around the knee. Consider using IASTM for traps and neck. Consider using it for low back, the abdominal area, abdomen, very important. Hip flexors, right over those very tendinous areas right below the ASIS, where the sartorius and the quads attach, vastus lateralis, the TFL, IT band can be very good for gentle IASTM, as opposed to really digging it in there. Just like see if you can just have it relaxed. For Achilles tendonitis, awesome. Getting into all of the back of the leg. You could do just the calves, or you could get the whole hamstring and calves because it is a posterior chain issue. So really consider assessing fascia for your patients for issues, all issues. It's another argument that you can't just muscle test and then know what to do. It's really important that we understand how the body works, what is really going on with the body, and that involves understanding the sensory motor components of motor control and the role that the sensory nervous system plays via mechanoreceptors and proprioception. It's really important that we understand that we think about it, that we are addressing it as necessary. So you can't just settle for having a patient come in and tell you they're in pain and then just, muscle test their hip abduction and flexion and then just go about your treatment. It's really important to understand that this is how the body works. And when we have an injury, the fascia is involved. That you'll see that especially with low leg issues. You definitely see it with low back issues. You see it with hip issues. Just be aware that we need to think outside of muscles. We need to think about fascia. We need to think about the autonomic nervous system. Think about lymph. Think about blood circulation. There's a lot involved, and the more we know and the more we pay attention to how the whole body works, the better our diagnosis will be, and then our outcomes are much, much better. Imagine how many times you might be treating somebody with a tight fascia lata if you're not even aware what it is or why it's tight, and you're just treating muscles. You actually might not actually get the result that the patient came to see you for if you're not aware that the fascia lata was the problem. So hopefully that was useful to somebody. Look in the little verbiage on the podcast, whether it's iTunes or Spotify or whatever you're using, for the link. I'll put a link to at least one of my favorite IASTM videos from Brookbush Institute, but I recommend that you just go to YouTube and use those keywords, Brookbush Institute IASTM, and you're going to find lots of stuff, and you'll find things that appeal to you, that you're interested in for your patients or your own health, because that's really the stuff you need, not just whatever link I decide to send to you because it's of interest to me. So that's it. I'll do something else about fascia at some point, but hopefully I have sparked some interest among some of you for looking into some things that you maybe aren't currently thinking about. All right, so that's it for this week. Have a great week. I will talk to you soon.